It doesn't matter if you have a professional education, if you have a lot of money to get started with, if you have a real estate license, what you've done in your past or what you want to do. If you have the work ethic to get on the phone and make some calls, this can work for you.
All right, so let's go ahead and learn a little bit about our guest today. So Tyson Smith is a 24-year-old real estate investor that is by far one of the most consistent investors in the game. In 2020, Tyson graduated from college and made the leap of faith to dive right into real estate market with local investment firm. Unfortunately, the timing wasn't right because soon after he started, the pandemic hit. I'm sure we all felt the sting from that. So Tyson pivoted, and instead of hanging up his boots, he decided to start a wholesaling real estate business. After making hundreds of calls a day, he got 3 homes under contract, and since then, he has not looked back. So let's go ahead and fast forward to today. Tyson owns a 7-figure wholesaling business and mentors students all over the United States on how to start and scale a successful wholesaling business. Now, at the end of our webinar today, you guys are going to find more about how to get connected with Tyson. So just make sure you guys stay till the end because I'm sure he's going to hook you guys up. All right, so let's dive into today's agenda. First, I'd like everybody to get to know Tyson a little bit more. So we're going to ask him a couple questions about his career and learn more about the process and really how he became a successful investor. And then Tyson is going to deep dive into these 4 major topics. The first is how to quickly qualify a seller's motivation. The second is how to establish trust and credibility with a homeowner. The third is how to handle objections and fear of rejection. I know we're probably all scared to pick up the phone, right? He's going to teach you not to be scared. And the fourth is how to develop effective KPIs. If you don't know what KPIs are, it's key performance indicators. And last but not least, I'm going to ask my famous final question, and that will be a wrap. So with further ado, I give to you the one and only Tyson Smith. What's going on, Tyson?
What's going on, everybody? So good to see that all of you guys took time today to go ahead and learn something that, if you allow it to, will fundamentally change your life, okay? I'm fully prepared today to give you everything you need so that you're going to feel confident to go ahead and take that first step that will allow you to become an investor, that will allow you to buy back your freedom, allow you to have the money to do the things you enjoy doing and live the fullest life.
I love that. I love that. So to start out, we all want to know, Tyson, who is Tyson Smith and what should people know about you when it comes to your story and journey of becoming a successful real estate investor?
So I'm going to be honest with you. Tyson Smith is a regular guy, like most of you guys watching, I assume, right? The way that it all got started, as you said, I came out of college and all I knew was I wanted to make a lot of money, but I wasn't really sure exactly how that was going to happen. I don't know if any of you guys else feel like this, but I always thought that something was going to happen where the dream job was going to land in my lap and I was going to figure it out and be able to make a bunch of money. And that's exactly how it went. Because when one door closed, when, at the other investment firm it didn't work, another one opened, which was, hey, wholesaling real estate. All of a sudden I learned of this thing where anybody without any real estate experience, cash or credit, can go in and flip houses and make tens of thousands of dollars. I was like, all right, heard enough.
Sold.
Sign me up. Yeah. And then turns out it's actually real, right? Because when you first see it, I'm like, what's going on here? But then I start to research a little bit and I see these people and they're driving the cars I want. They got the watches I like. They live in big houses. And I'm like, all right, this is the real deal. If they can do it, so can I. So let's give it a shot. And that's what I did, right? We jumped into it, started taking the actions that were going to take me from where I wanted to, or from where I was to where I wanted to go. And that's exactly what we're going to get into today. Or what are those steps? How do we make it happen? And how do we start building this up from zero to where we get where it is that we're looking to be?
Beautiful. I love the motivation. I love it. So what are some of your strategies for identifying key indicators of a seller's motivation during the initial phone conversation?
So I love this is where we're starting because we're giving it the primary value and that's what it deserves. Why the seller wants to sell is the most important factor there is when it comes to a real estate transaction. Because here's the deal. People, oftentimes beginners, just like I was myself, are too concerned about the wrong thing. See, most beginners I see, they're worried about, hey, what kind of house am I looking for? When that's really not the primary objective. What we're looking for is a specific seller Somebody who needs to sell their property quickly, because that's what's going to allow us to help them. Now, yes, there are things about whether the property itself is distressed and needs repairs, but that's just all icing on the cake, honestly, when it comes to the investment side. Because we need to figure out somebody who we're going to be able to help, somebody who's not going to be a good fit for the traditional way of selling their house. That's going to be the person we can help. So the way for us to uncover that is simply to ask, hey, what's got you thinking about selling the house? But here's what I'm going to tell you. Not everybody is going to open up to a stranger on the phone right away. And so I do have a couple strategies that allow us to sort of disarm them so that, you know, they got their guard down. They're like, hey, I'm not just being sold to, I'm not talking to some sleazy car salesman. And instead, open up to you, let you know, let you into their lives so they can kind of tell you what's going on so you can see if you're a good fit to even help this person.
Yep.
So the way I do this is first, immediately when I get on the phone with them, I'm going to ask them, hey, this property over here on 123 Main Street, is this something you'd be open to getting a cash offer on? Once they say yes, I give them a little deep dive into what the rest of the conversation is going to look like. Let them know, hey, look, that's great. Is what I'd like to do is ask you a few questions about the property. That way I can figure out if this is something I'm interested in purchasing. And if that's the case, I'll have an offer for you in the next 20, 30 minutes. Or if for some reason it's not something I'm interested in, I'll go ahead and let you know why, and you'll never hear from me again. All right? That's a little something at the end I like to toss in. Like I said, we want to disarm them, bring their guard down, let them know we're not here to sell them on anything. Once we've gotten into that, they know, okay, why is Tyson calling? It's to hopefully get a cash offer for my property. Then at that point, I'll say to them, hey, while I get your property pulled up, will you catch me up to speed for a second? What's got you thinking about selling this house? This is giving me time to open up Zillow, go ahead, type in their address, or if you're a pro, you've got batch leads opened up and you're typing in the address there. And then you can start looking at some data of the property, but most importantly, you're listening to what they're gonna say. Because here is where oftentimes they're just gonna start dumping information on you. Now there's a million different ways to ask them why you wanna sell your house. And it can be as simple as just asking that question again. But later on, let's say you start to talk about some of these other questions we're going to get into, but they closed up when you asked them why they wanted to sell. We're going to come back to that by maybe saying, well, hey, listen, if you could wave a magic wand, what would be your ideal outcome when you sell this house? Something like that, right? That gives them another chance to answer the same question that's just asked in a different way. Or you can ask them, hey, like, what would selling this house allow you to do? That's another way to get to the same end result, but just with a different starting point. But the key here is to know that in any conversation with a homeowner, it's not step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Sometimes it's step 1 and then it's step 6 and you got to go back to step 2 and then you go to step 4 and you got to make sure you loop back around to step 3. It's fluid, right? And that's why it is really important to have a framework that you follow so you can make sure that you check all the boxes. And then actually a final point I want to make on this is as they're talking, zip your mouth. Let them talk. Let them go through it all. They love this. People want to be heard. And if you can just for a second be their therapist and all you need to say is, uh-huh, oh yeah, really, right? Just let them keep going. And the whole time you need to be taking notes, okay? You need to be writing all this down so you can come back because we're going to reference this stuff later.
One thing I want to really touch on today is, what are the most common mistakes wholesalers make when trying to really qualify a seller's motivation, and how can they avoid them?
Yeah. So one of the biggest mistakes I see a lot of beginners make when they first get into this is they're focused on the wrong thing. They're focused on the house. A question I get asked all the time is, hey, Tyson, when I'm pulling a list on batch leads, how do you know that a house is going to be a good one to call? My answer is I don't. That's why I call them, because that's where I'm going to figure out if it's good.
Yep.
I'm not concerned about the house. I'm concerned about the seller. Is this person in a situation where I'm going to be able to help them out?
Yep.
So I'm going to say, if you're a beginner, you do not want to fall into the trap of looking at these houses, pulling them up, seeing, okay, what do the comps look like? What's my MAO going to be? Don't waste any time doing that, because you don't even know yet when you give this person a call if they want to sell their property, if they're a person that is going to be in a situation where you're going to be able to help them. All of that, the only way you're going to discover that is by picking up the phone, calling them, and asking them if they're interested in a cash offer for their property. Then the details will come that will let us know if this is going to be a good person to go ahead and continue with.
So now, what are some of the effective ways to demonstrate your expertise and reliability to homeowners who are very skeptical of working with wholesalers?
Yeah. So this is going to be sort of two things. The first is I'm going to say, as I mentioned earlier, establishing your competence of just knowing about the real estate, meaning you ask the right questions about the condition. And so just by knowing to ask these questions, you're going to just come across as you're fixing the deck to show that you're, competent and you know what you're doing. Now, that's the kind of the first part. That's the easy part, right? That's really easy to do. The second part comes with time. I can't even tell you how many thousands of calls. So many times have I done this. And when I first started out, I wasn't, Mr. Confident. I'm stumbling over my words. I'm saying the wrong things. I'm getting completely lost. And there's huge moments of silences where I'm trying to figure out what to say next on my scripts. And that's all part of it. And those things aren't going to kill you. It doesn't matter. Like, that's only going to make you better, and it's totally fine. But from doing it time and time and time again, do you eventually start to just build this confidence in yourself?
Yep.
Where it just comes across. When somebody asks me a question, I answer it directly, but I say it in a way that is confident.
Beautiful, beautiful. So I know this next one, every single person is going to relate to. And it's basically how to handle objections and, like we just spoke about, the fear of rejection. So what are your go-to techniques for managing common objections from sellers, and could you provide some examples?
Yeah, so when it comes to objections, the key here is to understand what are they really worried about, because what people say and what they actually mean are oftentimes two very different things. And the way I really like to get down to this is to, number one, acknowledge what they say and affirm their belief. Third part, redirect, okay? So you need to think of a cold call or this conversation as a tennis match. Every single question you ask serves the ball back to their end, and you never want to be caught with the ball. You're caught with the ball when you answer a question and do not answer and you do not ask another question.
So for a real estate wholesaling business, right, which KPIs do you really consider most crucial for monitoring your success?
So I think for a business versus somebody who's starting, these are probably two different questions.
Yep.
I want to talk about somebody who's kind of in the beginning phases of, getting their first deal and you're cold calling. So when it comes to KPIs, there are leading indicators and there are lagging indicators. Leading indicators are the things that you can stack that lead to the lagging indicators, such as a leading indicator is offers made. The more offers you make, the more chances you have of getting a contract. But the contract is the lagging indicator of making offers. Now, here's the deal. You do not want to base your KPIs based off of lagging indicators because those contain elements that are outside of your control. For me, I like to focus on KPIs that are 100% in my control, that only I am the differentiating factor. It's whether or not I do the work, whether I do the action. So the easiest one to start off is just dials, right? But it's kind of a bad metric. So what I want you to focus on is leads. A lead is somebody who says, yes, I'd be interested in a cash offer. Now, the KPI I always tell people to focus on is your goal should be to get 2 people every single day who say, yes, I'd be interested in a cash offer. Where that conversation goes after that is irrelevant to me in this KPI. As long as you have somebody who says, yes, I'd be interested in getting a cash offer, that's a lead and you should focus on getting 2 of those a day, okay? Now, for somebody who is here, not a virtual assistant, but if it's you going ahead and making those calls, it should take you about 50 of those people who say, yes, I'd be interested in selling my house, statistically, to find somebody who is going to be your first contract. Now, it might not happen right away. It might be somebody who says, yes, I'd be interested in selling my house. And then you follow up with them 6 different times. And a month later, you eventually end up getting that contract. But you need to get your base 50, your 50 leads of people who say, yes, I would sell my house. And then you need to routinely follow up with them every 1 to 2 weeks, depending on the situation. Okay. Now, while you're doing that, it's not like you just get your 50 and then only follow up with those people. You keep adding new blood into that, but focus on every single day getting 2 people who say, yes, I would sell my house. And in the beginning, all you need to do is create a Google sheet and you're going to put name, address, phone number, notes, offer made, and next follow-up date. And that's the information you're going to track. And any single time that you are cold calling somebody, you're on batch dialer, their name pops up, you say, hey, my name is Tyson. I was calling to see if you might be interested in getting a cash offer for your property over on blah, blah, blah street. And they say, yes, I'd be interested. Immediately, boom, you throw up the Google sheet, type in their name, type in their phone number, type in their address, and then it's boom, next to our next question, which is, hey, while I'm getting your property pulled up, go ahead and catch me up to speed. What's got you thinking about selling this place? And whatever, you continue. But your goal should simply be, in the beginning, get 2 of those a day. If you get 2 of those a day and you do that every single day, you will get the lagging indicator, the next one, which is, hey, money in the bank account, much faster than you realize, okay? So start with that. Just get 2 people a day. And if you start with a goal like that, it's something I know you can achieve, and it will get you the results you're looking for.
I want to go ahead and have him answer some of these questions that everybody has put in the question toolbar so that we can deliver more value to everybody out there.
Yeah, so looks like Kent is asking, how many calls should I be making a day? Now, I'm going to tell you, this is kind of the wrong question to be asking. I get where you're coming from, but here's the deal. For everybody's situation, that's going to be different, depending on how much time you have and things of that nature. But really, to answer the question, I got to ask you 2 questions. Number 1, how much money do you want to make and how much time do you have? When I was first getting started, how many calls should I make a day was as many as I possibly could. When I was trying to get my first deal, I wanted to spend every single moment that I possibly could making calls because I knew that that is what was going to get me closer to my end goal. For a simple baseline is if you are 100% dedicated to this and you have the time to go ahead and do it and you're hooked up, you're equipped with batch dialer and you got the leads to call, you should be making 1,000 calls a day. If you're not running off a dialer, you're hand dialing it all, I'd shoot for at least 100. But as you can see, that's why having a tool like batch dialer is just going to like 10x your output, because a batch dialer is going to make it possible for you to make 1,000 calls a day. I'm telling you right now, you can't make 1,000 calls a day if you're hand dialing. It's not going to happen. But batch dialer will literally allow you to 10x your inputs, making calls, which are going to 10x your outputs, which are signed contracts.
And that's a good question for Michael. Michael was basically saying, can you actually cold call without a dialer, or is it better to do it with?
Absolutely. And I see he has some concerns about whether or not your area code is a big difference. Here's what I'm going to tell you. Last year, I closed deals in 20 different states, and I'm primarily calling from 480 Arizona numbers. It's not really that big of a thing. Yes, when it comes to calling cold data, and using batch dialer, batch dialer makes it super easy to get area codes that are local to wherever you're calling. And for that, I recommend it, yes. But that shouldn't be something that's going to deter you from making calls. My area code is not the same as the one I'm calling. It doesn't really matter that much. If anybody has a question about it, you say, yeah. Hey, how are you going to buy my house here in Indiana from Arizona? It's like, hey, I've identified your area in Indiana to be a good market for real estate investments, and that's where I'm looking to place my money.
So what's the best list to call?
No such thing as the best list, I'll be honest with you. So I get that question a lot is, hey, what's your favorite filter on batch leads? And it's all of them. For those of you guys who know me, I'm all off market. I don't do any on market, so I can't speak to that. But when it comes to off market on batch, it's a very simple process. We search the city or the zip code or wherever it is we're looking to target. I'm going to go ahead, filter it by off market. I'm going to grab the pre-foreclosures, the tax defaults, the inherited properties, the vacant properties, and the expired listings. And there you have it. We'll do a couple other filters. We'll make sure we have 50% equity. We'll make sure we have houses with an estimated value of over 100,000. If you really want to niche it down more, we go individually owned, and I make sure that I filter it by single family residential, so I'm not getting other, lots or condos or things like that, which those are totally fine to look for if that's what you do. But I focus on single family because that's where I find the most deals and that's where I have the most buyers for.
So my final famous question that I always ask, all right? So if you were to leave one piece of advice behind, Tyson, for all the entrepreneurs out there, what words of advice would you leave?
So this is a quote. I'm not sure if it's from Confucius or Henry Ford. It's attributed to both people, and I haven't done enough research to figure out who actually said it. But it goes like, the man who says I can and the man who says I can't are both usually right. What I want you guys to think about is the mindset of going into this. Everybody, wholesaling real estate levels the playing field for everybody. It doesn't matter if you have a professional education, if you have a lot of money to get started with, if you have a real estate license, what you've done in your past or what you want to do. If you have the work ethic to get on the phone and make some calls, this can work for you. It's just a simple matter of deciding that it will and choosing not to give up the first time that somebody says No. Go out there, start doing the things that are going to make you money. And I can tell you right now, that is talking to people who want to sell their house. If you do that and you talk to 2 people a day who say that, yes, I'd be interested in a cash offer, your life will dramatically change over the next 90 days. And when you do, send me a DM on Instagram and let me know so I can get stoked with you.
Beautiful. Well, thank you once again. And like our CEO, Jesse would say, let's get it.